Hi everybody, I'm going to show you some database functions and talk to you about how they work. But first I'm going to show you a trick about naming ranges and referring to those ranges that I think you're going to love. If I wanted to refer to anything in this column here after the heading and all the way down, all the appraised values, I could easily name this range by selecting all the cells and then going up to the name box and calling it appraised underscore value, and then every time I clicked on that it would go to that area. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to name this cell right here. It already has a cell a name. It's J7 rather, but I could name this expensive paintings. Now I've abbreviated that, and it really doesn't matter what I type in here for a name. I'm going to press enter. And now if I click away from that and I want to go back to that cell quickly, I can just go to Paint and it jumps right into that cell, J7. You can name ranges, you can name individual cells, even though cells already start out with a name, and of course that's going to be the intersection of the row and the column. Okay, so here's the trick I'm going to teach you. You can name all the columns in a database really quickly and easily by clicking in the middle of your data and doing a Control A to select everything, and then going to Data, going to Formulas and clicking this Create from Selection. So click Create from Selection. It's going to ask you, where am I going to get the names for these ranges? And I often see both these checked. Make sure that if your names are only in the top row that you get rid of that check mark if you see it. And so I'll say OK, and it doesn't really look like anything happened, but if I look in my name range box, look at that, I've got all these named ranges. So if I click on condition, look how it lights up that entire area. It won't get the heading itself, and you don't want it to, because the heading is there separate. This is the data, and that's a separate thing. So by selecting our data with a Control A and then going to the Formulas tab, Create from Selection, and making sure it says top row and saying OK, now we automatically have a lot of named areas that we can refer to. This is really cool because let me show you an example. What if I wanted to find out the total appraisal value of all the things I have in my museum? I could say equals the sum of, and then I could refer to that range. If I start typing APP, because it's called appraised value, can you see that you get a little pop-up, a suggestion to say, do you mean this particular named object? And if you do mean it, if you see what you want selected and highlighted blue, press the Tab key to lock it in. Notice that that area lights up blue. I'm just going to press enter. I didn't even bother putting the closing parentheses, and that is the sum of all that. And so yeah, I need to make it look like money probably, but anyway, you can see how easy it is to be able to refer to a named range. That's something an expert Excel person would know, and that's why I want you to know, even though it might not get covered in the book properly. Okay, so after you name all of your areas here, then I want you to name another area. I want you to select the cells from A1 down to H2. That's the orange cells at the top. And we're going to give this range the name criteria. And when you use the name box, press enter. Now if you made a mistake, if you selected too many cells like that and named it criteria, you can't just reselect and name criteria again. You have to then go to formulas, go to the name manager, find criteria, delete it, and then try again. So then select carefully, try again, and press enter. Okay, so now I've got a range called criteria, and I've got named ranges I can refer to, and I'm setting myself up for creating a database function expression. So the last thing I have to do is I want to name all of my data as a range. So I'm going to do Control A again. And I'm gonna, oh, I see this is already named, and that's great. Okay, so let me show you that again. When you select all of it, I guess in the file I gave you, it already was named museum data, the whole range, and that's perfect. Database is my preferred. In fact, I'm gonna say, let's go to Name Manager. Let's get rid of the name museum data. Let's delete it. And then let's do a select A again, and let's name this database. Because when the formula is going to ask us to tell us where the database is, we're just going to type database. And when it asks us where the criteria is, we're going to type criteria, and it's just going to work absolutely so smoothly. Now, you do database functions to answer questions. That's the whole point of it. You're asking questions of your data like, how many paintings do we have valued at over $5,000? That's a management question you might need to ask if you had to take out a special insurance rider on it. Now, when you ask how many, you're not asking for the value of those paintings. You're asking for a count. If we wanted to just count all the paintings or all the data, we would say count, equals count, and we'd say H4 to H whatever down at the bottom. Or we could even say count appraised value. If we say count appraised value equals count, open parentheses, APP, and lock it in. What do we have? We have 115. Yeah, but you and I both know that's not just for paintings, and it's not just for paintings at over 5,000. It's showing us the number of all the records. So we can't just do a regular count. Now we could do a count if, but we're interested in learning database functions, so we're going to use a database formula. And the database formulas look like the other formulas. So that would have been a count, how many. We're going to do equals dcount. And again, when I see what I want highlighted blue, I press the tab key. Now look at the arguments it's asking for. It's asking for, where's your database? Well, I can just start typing and lock it in. I name my database, so boy, that is really easy. The second thing it wants to know after a comma to tell it I'm ready for the next argument is which field is what I'm going to count. Okay, so the field is not important when you're doing a count. If I count here, 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 I'm going to get the same number as here, 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 here. You get the idea. So it doesn't matter which field I say, I'll just click on one. And I've chosen appraised value, H3, because I've used a count function. And count could only, with this data, count this column of data or the numbers here, because count wants to count numbers. If I wanted to count one of these columns, I'd have to do a dcount A, because that would be counting an alphanumeric thing. Okay, so I'm telling it the field is H3. Go ahead and count everything here. And then the criteria is criteria. Now, this is not going to work. I just want you to know that. I'm going to finish the formula though and say the formula is dcount database H3. I want you to count the records in this column, and then according to the criteria, and I'm going to press enter. Now it's still counting 115, and that is because our criteria range hasn't been filled in yet, and we'll do that right now. To fill in a big criteria range like this, I select the headers, I choose copy, and I choose paste. So I selected these cells, I chose Control C, I clicked in A1, and I chose paste, that's Control V. I'm going to tell it immediately to keep the source formatting because I want it to stay orange, and then I'm going to press escape. Oh, it didn't stay orange. I'm going to turn it back to orange because I want it to look a little different. I don't want it to get confused with the data. Okay, so these cells right here, remember this range is our criteria, and that's what we're referring to here. But we haven't actually put in the criteria, and we are only interested in paintings. So I'm going to click here, and actually I'm going to copy and paste from data too. So copy and paste. Why don't I just type painting in? Well, I'll tell you why I don't, because when you type painting in, you might make a typo and you wouldn't figure out what was going on with your typo. So I'm going to just put that in there. Okay, now look at what happened. Now it's counting anything in this column as long as the category is painting. Isn't that amazing? I can prove it too, because if I turn sculpture into painting, look at how that goes up. I'm going to undo that because that's not correct for the data, but it's looking to what's in this criteria row, and it wants to count. I'm going to double click on this slowly to show you what's in here. It's using a D count, that's find how many, or count records. Where's the data? Well, we named the whole data database. What field do I want to count on? With a count, it doesn't matter that much, but it has to be a count of numbers, so I could choose this column or this column. If I did D count A, it won't, it's amazing actually. It shouldn't work, but it is working. And now I could tell it to count this heading right here, the condition, and notice it still works. I don't know why decount A worked for counting these numbers, but anyway. Okay, so that's the idea. And then finally the criteria is here. And now let me just explain the criteria a little better. When you set up a criteria area, it has to have the number, it has to have the heading at the top and then the criteria below it. Now, I've set up a huge criteria area because I'm going to answer all these questions. And I want you to notice how the answers change depending on what's up here. So notice when I take out the criteria that this goes back up to 115 because it's counting everything. If I want to answer this question right here, how many items in the East Pavilion? Well, again, how many says I'm going to do a count, so I'll do D count A. And I'm going to go down and do D count A and tab to type it in, to lock it in. Now the first argument is database, so I'm going to start typing database and press tab, comma. I'm ready for the next argument. What field do you want to count? Well, I've said D count A, and I'm interested in the East Pavilion, so let me just click on the location column field, and then comma, and then criteria is criteria, and I'm going to lock that in and press enter. Again, it's looking for everything, but the minute I copy and paste location up here, now I know that I actually have 90 items that are in the East Pavilion. Okay, so when I get rid of this, guess what happens? These answers are no longer any good. And we're going to look at the solution for that in a second, okay? Let's do the last question. How many textiles? No, I'm going to change that. I'm going to do value of textiles in excellent condition. Okay, I changed it to value because I want to use a different database function. I want to use a dsum. If you want to add up values, use a sum. When it's a database function, use dsum. So I'm going to type in equals, let's do this. Equals dsum. I'm locking it in. Database is my database. Which field do I want to sum up? Well, that's definitely this field, comma, and criteria is criteria. So I'm closing it and locking it in. Now right now it's looking at all the data, and so it's telling me the total value of the whole collection. But again, if I want textiles in excellent condition, first I have to put excellent under condition, and I'm copying, and I have to do textile under category, and I'm copying. So now I can see that the total value of textiles in excellent condition is $7,400. Okay, so you can see that this area works brilliantly if you have one question and you want to fill in lots of different criteria. So I could even do a more complex question like value of textiles by Z-I-S-C-H-K-E. Let's put his name up here under artist, and now I can see, well, actually the value now goes down to 1200. So having a huge criteria area like this is nice for for two reasons. One is that when it prompts you for criteria, you type in criteria and Bob's your uncle. It works beautifully. The other reason it works well is if you only have one question. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of my criteria up here, and I want to make that orange again. Kind of bugs me not seeing it orange. Okay, and now I want to show you how can you get answers to multiple questions all at the same time. And that is on the next video.